Good morning, my name is Sarah and welcome to the second video in a series called Growing with Willow. If you're not sure about what this video series is, or if you're just tuning in, I will put the link in the description below for the first video, which kind of explains who I am, what it is I'm trying to do with this video series, and who Willow is. But I'm just gonna jump right into it for now. I had so many plans for this second video and I had a lot of ideas, and the way this week has went, it has really showed me how much we need to be able to adapt to change, because the plans I had in mind went completely out the window. Willow's actually been quite ill this past week, so I've been handling that and really not working her too intensely because she was extraordinarily sick. She had West Nile, or has West Nile. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a disease carried by mosquitoes and it's quite serious for horses. It usually results in death, or it can. Some horses recover from it if you catch it on early enough. And there isn't a lot vets can do for it. They can give them some pain meds and keep them hydrated and all that fun stuff, but there isn't really a lot aside from kind of management that they can do with it. There's no cure for it. But like I said, some horses do pull through, some don't. It just depends. And this is what Willow has, and it's been crazy dealing with that all this week and kind of telling the story from how it started. I was out and about a couple days ago, well, a week ago or more, I guess, with my roommate, and I got a call from the other Sarah at the barn, so there's two of us, and she said, hey, like, Willow's not doing well, her back end's really shaky, I brought her in, she just doesn't seem normal, she's not touching her food, and that's the biggest indicator of horses that there's something wrong, that if they're not touching their food. So she called the vet, I came out, he wasn't going to be able to get there till about 5:30, so we had a lot of sitting around and waiting to do. We were just monitoring her. Sarah and I really thought that it was going to be a situation where we were putting her down just because of the condition she was in, and it was really hard to wrap my head around that. There was so much going on that day. And I wish I had some footage to show you of what she looked like, because it was crazy. Like, she looked like a totally different horse, very just abnormal looking. But like I said, that wasn't the time or the place for that, and there was just so much going on. It just wouldn't have been helpful to be videoing any of it. But basically, the vet came around 5:30 that day. He got some fluids into her, some other pain meds, and a few other things as well, and took her temperature, did a couple other exams and some tests on her, and took blood work. So basically, with the blood work, we wouldn't know for a few days after whether or not it was West Nile. It takes a while for that to come back, obviously, because it's got to go to a lab. And of course, this was on a weekend, so most of the labs and whatnot are not open on weekends. So it was kind of a waiting game, and he basically gave us the advice that, you know, if she starts eating and drinking again, that's a good indicator that she's going to recover from whatever's going on. So anyways, fast forward a few hours, the vet had left, Sarah was getting ready to leave, and I was just waiting for my roommate to come and pick me up, because we had driven together and he obviously wasn't going to hang around the entire day while I was dealing with this horse. So I was hanging out with her near the stall, and I saw her go down in the stall, and immediately I thought, okay, something's taking a turn for the worse. This is not good. And she was very grunty, and grunting is kind of a sign with horses and kind of wanting to lay down, and when they kind of bite towards their stomach area, it's a sign that something intestinally isn't good with them. And I started wondering if it was maybe more something to do intestinally and not West Nile. But I went into the stall and I knew, okay, I have to get her up and walk her around. That's the best thing for horses when they are coliking, is what it's called. When they're coliking, is to get up and move around. So I'm trying to get her up out of the stall. Finally, my roommate shows up, and he doesn't really know much about horses aside from what I talk about the horses to him or with him. So here I am telling him, okay, we have to get this horse up and walk her around in the arena. And after a whole ordeal, finally we were able to do that. And she started to get really gassy and just seemed like she was kind of on the recovery again and kind of getting better. I think the walking helped stretch out, or whatever the case was. And sorry, I have a little dog running around me right now. Jack, come here. This is Jack, everyone. I don't know how long he'll sit up here. He doesn't like to stay till too long. But yeah, so basically the walking helped. She went back in her stall, started eating, started drinking, and I felt pretty comfortable leaving her for the night at that point. Throughout the rest of this week, she's very quickly recovered, and it turned out she did for sure have West Nile. It was confirmed, which is crazy that she recovered so quickly from it, and I am so grateful that we caught it in time and that Sarah realized that there was something wrong right away. And the moral of the story is, like I was saying earlier, sometimes as humans, we struggle with control. We really do. And I know it's something I struggle with. And stress management, controlling stress, is one thing that I really struggle with. And this week, what I've realized is I can't control everything that is going to happen and prevent stress from happening. I just need to be able to respond appropriately. And for the past few months, that's something I've been struggling with. So this week wasn't so much about working with Willow, but it was getting myself shifted into the mindset of being open to starting kind of this journey with her and start working with her. And I do have some footage of me working a little bit with her throughout this week of walking her around, because this week is probably the most she's ever been handled in her life. So ironically, I did kind of get to where I wanted to go, but just in a very roundabout way. And that is where horses have so much ability to teach us so many different things if we're willing to listen and do what is best for them. Like I said, managing stress for horses is everything. Their whole life is just stress management, and for us, really, it's the same thing. And this week, I've definitely learned a lot about that. So without any more talk, I'm going to show you some video clips and some photos and whatnot of this past week with her and what we were kind of working on. I'll probably put a voiceover over top of it so you can understand what's kind of going on. And I may or may not add another little clip in at the end to relate everything back to, like I said, managing stress and just how working with horses can really open our eyes to what we need to see in ourselves. You know, the qualities that the horses expect from us quite often are the qualities that we want to achieve in ourselves. Yeah, so here we go into the rest of the footage. So in this photo, you can see kind of just the level of discomfort she was in. This was taken the day that the vet came and gave her the fluids and the other meds and whatnot. This was in the evening, actually, just before my roommate came to pick me up. She went down on her stall, and this was the first time all day her hind end actually completely gave out on her. And she just was so uncomfortable laying on the ground, and you can really see how thin she looks here. And she was thin to begin with, but just in the span of that entire day, she had lost even more weight. Like I said, it was crazy to see the change in her. It just took over so quickly, and her hind end was just so shaky. By the time my roommate got there, he and I tried to get her up and start walking her around in the arena just to kind of help with that. And this is just a snapshot of the meds that she was on. She was on meds for 12 hours twice a day. Now, this footage here was taken a few days later, so a few days after this whole episode. We did a lot of walking her around in the arena just to kind of keep her stretching and moving, and she was obviously confined to her stall for quite a number of days, so just trying to keep her mentally stimulated as well. And you can see as I'm walking her around, she still doesn't look 100% comfortable. She's still very antsy looking, and unfortunately this is just kind of how her personality is right now because she hasn't had much handling. And like I said earlier in the video, this is actually the most handling she's probably ever had in her life, which is unfortunate that it had to come from such a trauma, but good in the same sense that she is starting to get used to people. And how I was kind of saying earlier about how stress management is everything for the horses, as you can see, I'm kind of continually just touching her gently with the whip, and that's not telling her she's bad or anything like that. It's just to kind of keep her attention with me. And that's what I'm doing kind of in this video, throughout this video. Her work and the work that we're doing with her right now is very, very preschool. It's just getting her used to being around people and getting her comfortable.